What's going on? It's Sonny Webster here, Team GB Olympic weightlifter, and I competed in the 2016 Olympic Games in the 94 kilo class. Now, what I'm gonna do with you guys today is talk to you a little bit about mobility, as I feel it is the most important element that you need to have before, first of all, learning how to do any of the Olympic movements. Right, so we're gonna start off with having a look at ankle mobility. So what we're referring to when we're talking about ankle mobility, in my mind, is the ability for our knee to track out over the toe without the ankle popping up off the floor, okay? So we're looking at this distance that's knees traveling past the toe. And this is really important when we're Olympic lifting to ensure that in the bottom position that our knees track over toes, the quads stay most active and the lower back stays flat. What we don't want is the dreaded butt wink, which you'll commonly see people doing when they're in their squat position, okay? So the way in which you can test this, nice simple one, is we're just gonna place, to begin with, our foot up against the wall, and we're gonna be tracking knee to wall, looking how far away we can get the foot from the wall whilst maintaining contact with it, okay? Now what I would say is a good level of ankle mobility, or a minimum requirement when learning to do a snatch or a squat, is that you can have a full fist away from the wall and still make contact with it here, okay? While you're practicing this, make sure you're nice and upright, and like I said, ankles not coming up off the floor. I'd say an expert or a high level would be thumb and full finger away from the wall and still being able to just about maintain contact, which I can nearly do on a good day. Now, if you're struggling with this mobility, a nice simple fix sometimes that can make life 10 times easier is just using a weightlifting shoe or giving something to help rise the ankle up a little bit higher. So what you'll see now is when I put on my lifting shoe, because these are a little bit raised, not quite the missus' stilettos, but they'll make life 10 times easier for me now in that same position, thumb and finger away from the wall, to maintain contact without popping up. So that's what you'll get from the raise in the heel in the lifting shoe. However, this isn't a quick fix, but it is something that makes life 10 times easier when you're trying to get into your bottom position for the squat, snatch, or clean. So if you've watched that test and gone, Sonny, I'm nowhere near that level of ankle mobility, then these are a couple of simple exercises that you can do that's gonna help you increase that range of motion. Now, one thing that I always find with people who have tight ankles or tough ankle mobility, well, they'll have really tight calves and fascia on the bottom of the foot. So two simple drills that we can do to begin with is to roll that and release off the fascia. So we're gonna start off placing weight on top of the foot here, and we're gonna use the bar as a roll, going inside and outside the foot here. What you'll feel is quite a sharp little cracking, popping pain as you're doing this, okay? It's nice and simple. You can do this with a hockey ball, with a barbell, etc. But as you're doing this, make sure again that you're going right down into the end position where the knee is tracking over the toes. Again, spend 30 to 60 seconds on this and then swap over. Once you've done both feet a couple of times, what you're then gonna do is go down onto your bum, and we're gonna do the same now on the backs of the calf. As I previously mentioned, if your calves are tight, again, it will have effect on the range of motion in the ankle. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna be rolling now back and forth all the way up to the back of the knee, feeling quite a sharp pain again whilst doing this. And again, we'll spend about 30 to 60 seconds on this and then change legs and go through this a couple of times. If you're a sicko and you don't feel that, then you can put one leg on top of the other one and do the same thing, but that's too much for me. Final exercise we're gonna have a look at now for ankle mobility is we're gonna grab ourselves a kettlebell dumbbell. This one looks 10 times heavier than what it is. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna mimic that position that we're gonna go into when we're squatting. So we're gonna place kettlebell now on top of the knee. So now we're loaded. And again, we're gonna focus on going to the end of range, placing pressure on top of the knee, making sure the foot stays flat. Okay, holding for a couple of seconds and then rocking back and tracking back out, knee over toe. Just so we're putting a little bit of pressure there on the ankle and getting used to being in this position with knee over toe in the bottom. I can feel this pulling a little bit at the back of the Achilles or right down the bottom of my calf here. So the next thing that's gonna make life 10 times harder for us when learning to snatch, clean, or squat is if we're tight in our hips, so our hip mobility or range of motion. So the first thing we're gonna do to try out, okay, is grab ourselves a bar or a broomstick if you've got one at home. You can do this stuff at home as well. You don't need to be in the gym. You're gonna take your legs out as wide as you can possibly go, okay, in this position, and you're gonna feel it pulling on your adductors and in your hips. What I want you to make sure in this position is that you're keeping your knees down flat on the floor and toes are pointing up towards the sky. Now, what I'm looking for as a minimum requirement here, okay, in your hips and your adduction here at the hips, is making sure that you're no more than 3 knuckles away from the bar. Okay, if you find that you're in this position and there's no way you can even reach the bar, then this in itself is an exercise that you can be doing to increase your range. So as once you get as wide as you can currently go, what you're gonna then do is place your hands flat on the floor and just walk your way out towards the bar. Over a period of time, this will improve and you'll be able to get closer and closer to the bar in this position. If you find you suck at this exercise, then there's no reason, that's one of the reasons why you're gonna be struggling to sit down deep in your bottom position in the snatch and staying nice and upright here, okay? But if you can get a full grip on the bar, then let's hold in this position for 30 seconds, increase, and then go for another 30 seconds and increase again. You can also play around with walking your hands out to each end of the collar and you'll hit a little bit more of the hamstrings in this movement. Okay, so I've got another good simple hip mobility drill that you can do to put into your warm-up, especially if you've seen that last one and went, oh, I'm miles away from the bar, okay? This one's a little bit easier. So you're gonna start with your feet just outside, hip width here, knees up, okay? And then we're gonna put hands out in front of the body. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna rotate over to one side, letting both knees come down, bum cheek staying down and chest staying upright, okay? And then from this position here, we're gonna rotate through over the other side. Again, feel the stretch inside the hip here. Stay nice and upright through the torso and rotate through. Doing sort of 3 sets of 20 on this exercise is absolutely plenty. Just make sure, like I said, you're staying nice and upright every time you come back through. I'm also making a point of every time I rotate through, pulling my toes towards my shins, again, to mimic where eventually we're gonna be in the bottom of the snatch. So we're gonna go over a couple of more simple mobility drills that's gonna help you with your upper thoracic or overhead mobility. So we're gonna start off with just going 4-point kneeling, okay, hands directly underneath the shoulders. Now I'd like to call this one happy cat, angry cat, or happy girlfriend, angry girlfriend, okay? And what we're gonna be doing here is we're gonna be driving chest up towards the ceiling, okay, and then dropping it down and retracting the scapulars here in our bottom position. You can guess which one's which. Okay, every time you're doing this, nice deep breaths in and out. Again, when you hit the bottom position, retract the scapulars, keep the arms nice and straight, and drive back through. You can go sort of like 3 sets of 20 reps, really work on the end of range there. Not only is this great if we're looking at overhead mobility, but also when you're talking about getting in a good front rack position, whether it be for a clean or a front squat. The final drill that I'm gonna be teaching you now is one of my top secret best ones here, okay, from the mobility manual. We're gonna take a dumbbell, okay, you're gonna drop the dumbbell down so your palm is facing up towards the ceiling here. And then from here, we're gonna be taking our knees just outside shoulder width, okay, and turning the inside of our feet in towards the floor. Again, mimicking where we're gonna be when we're doing the snatch position, okay, and then we're gonna keep gripping that dumbbell. You're gonna drop in here, keeping your shoulder in line with the dumbbell, and you'll be feeling this stretch right down through the lat and on the inside of the forearm, on that external rotation there, okay, and you're gonna breathe. Woosah. Take nice 10 deep breaths, feel the stretch, and then you can roll your dumbbell over and change hands like so. So we've addressed 3 of the core areas that, like I said, you need to have a good range of motion in first before you even think about worrying about lifting with the bar. However, once you do get to the point where you feel comfortable in those 3 areas and you're ready to start touching a bar, this is where the most important mobility exercises come in. And that's mobility under load, which is why a lot of different mobility programs or stretching exercises don't necessarily carry over into the Olympic lifts because they don't highlight the fact that when we're doing the Olympic lifts, we are under load. And therefore, there's definitely specific exercises that you need to do for Olympic weightlifting so that those mobility improvements carry over into the actual lifts. One of these exercises that works great for a lot of people is SOTS press, or press behind neck in snatch grip. So again, we're dressing the bar in our snatch grip, but this time we're gonna start off by pressing from this position with the bar overhead. Again, key focus on making sure you control the eccentric phase of the movement. You're then gonna progress down halfway into your bottom position and perform the same exercise. And then eventually what we're looking for is that you go all the way down into your sitting position here for the snatch. As you can see, I'm forcing my knees out over my toes. My bum's nice and close to the floor. I'm sitting nice and upright. And again, we're gonna press from here. If you find you get to the slightest bit out of lock here and this is a struggle pressing, then that's the range you work to begin with. Over a period of time, you're going to be able to get lower and lower and press from that bottom position. Another simple one, which I want to show you quickly, just with the plate. Okay, we're going to be dropping this back and over the head here so the elbows stay nice and high, mimicking where you'd be maybe in a front rack position for a clean or a squat. And again, you're just going to begin focusing going down into your squat position here and taking little bounces side to side with your chest nice and upright. Ultimately, the more time you spend in this position and the more comfortable you get here, the more likely you're gonna wanna drop into this position at speed. You'll catch me sometimes even just waiting for the bus in this position because it comes so naturally to me, and that's why I can get down there fast. So as I mentioned, these are just a few of the exercises that I would incorporate into a mobility program. And it's essential for me that you're mobilizing first before actually lifting so that you increase the range of motion and you gain strength and stability for it before you get round to loading it into the Olympic lifts. This is the way you're going to progress best with the mobility. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. Make sure you like and subscribe. And once you've gone back through those mobility exercises and you're ready to roll, you'll then move on to my next video that's going to take a look at the overhead squat.